is going on, all you wonderful A-plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again, here to give you guys my review of Kamen Rider Saber episode 23. So this episode starts with Tetsudo recapping the events from the previous episode. He brings up that Yuri's sword used to be the only saber capable of separating the monsters from the civilians. However, last week proved that Toma also has this ability. He then goes on to say that if Toma's able to do it, there's a huge possibility that the other riders might have this ability as well. And therefore, if every other rider can learn this ability, they can take down each of the monsters of the week and not have to worry about harming any of the civilians. The issue, however, is that in order to let the other riders know about this, they need to get all the other riders on board with them, and they can't do that until they can convince the other riders that there is corruption within the Sword of Logos. Since all of their previous attempts at convincing the other Kamen Riders about the corruption within the Sword of Logos has failed, they think that the easiest way to do so would be to sneak into the South Pole base and talk to the Master of Logos himself. Meanwhile, very coincidentally, it turns out the villains also have a plan to sneak into the South Pole base, but of course for very different reasons. Storios reveals that he wants to sneak in order to steal a very powerful MacGuffin that just happens to also be hidden within the South Pole base. We then finally get to see all the other members of the Sword of Logos that have been mentioned for a while in the series, but we've never actually seen up until this point, and this also includes the Master of Logos himself. While their original plan to sneak into the South Pole base relied on Tetsudo's key still working, it turns out that it's been deactivated ever since he started following Toma. Because of this, they go to Ogami for help, but seemingly Ogami refuses until he slams his hand down on the counter and walks away. It turns out that he left the key for them to use so they could sneak in there. However, him walking away indicates that even though he wants to support him in any way he can, he is still decently loyal to the Sword of Logos. However, again, kind of like I've been bringing up in the previous episodes, Ogami has kind of revealed that he doesn't see Toma or Tetsudo as the enemy, so him wanting to help them out in any way that could possibly help unite them along with the other Sword of Logos, of course he's going to take those opportunities. Using Ogami's key, Tetsudo and Toma sneak into the Sword of Logos, not knowing that Storios is also sneaking in at the same time. Speaking of which, I do want to talk a minute about Storios and how he's sneaking into the base. This was something I did not know that they could do this whole time. Basically, he uses Zuos and Legail to draw in the other riders, and once the riders teleport in using their Wonder Ride books, apparently there's that short period of time where their teleporter, or their portal I guess, stays open, and while it's still open you can sneak through in order to get in onto the other side, and Storios takes advantage of this. Again, this is something where I find it kind of funny because we're 23 episodes into the series, and I do find it weird that this is something that the villains and the heroes could have done this whole time, and no one's really thought of using this ability until just now. Like, this isn't really a complaint about the episode or the writing or anything like that. It's just that, man, this could have been useful in so many different situations up until now, so it is kind of funny knowing that this is something they could have been doing for the longest time. Of course, as they sneak into the base, the members of the Sword of Logos are on high alert because even though Toma and Tetsudo were very sneaky about sneaking in, Storios not so much. He basically makes a lot of noise as he's taking down all of the members of the Sword of Logos one by one, and Toma and Tetsudo aren't even aware of why the other members are on high alert. As far as they know, it's because they actually know that Tetsudo and Toma have snuck in. It's not until Ogami catches up with Tetsudo and he reveals to them that Storios has also snuck in, but by that time Tetsudo and Toma have kind of gotten split up in this because of a weird thing that happens with one of the members of the Sword of Logos. But before I get into that, let me go back to Storios for a minute, because as he's sneaking in, he confronts the Master of Logos, and seemingly the Master of Logos actually overpowers him for a brief moment. We don't really see a conclusion to this fight, and I have a theory as to why, which I'll get into at the end of this video. But cutting back to Toma, we see that he's run into one of the members of the Sword of Logos, and rather than this guy alerting all the other members of the Sword of Logos, he seemingly helps Toma get him to his destination, although this destination isn't what Toma was intending. Of course, we know that Toma was trying to speak with the Master of Logos, but this guy instead takes him to where Storios is. Toma discovers that Storios is stealing a book. So we know that somehow Storios has gone from point A, which was talking to the Master of Logos, to point C, where now he has this book and he and Toma are now facing each other, but we don't know what point B was. We don't know what happened after he faced the Master of Logos. And like I said, I think there is a reason for this that will be explained in the next episode. So Storios opens the book and it unleashes this really dark energy that gives him like this major power up, and unfortunately for him though, it's too much for him to handle, and so the power of course overpowers Toma for a brief moment until the book suddenly finds its way over to Toma, and when it does, it turns into a Wonder Ride book. Before Toma even touches it, the book seemingly has already corrupted Toma, and Toma, you know, picks it up and equips it with his regular power up for his Kamen Rider form, and then as he transforms, he's given a brand new power up. At the point this happens, we get a glimpse of the Master of Logos as he smiles, implying that this was perhaps something that he was planning all along. Legail arrives on the scene as well, and he and Storios attempt to fight off Toma with his new form, but Toma's new form not only makes him way more powerful than the two of them, it also makes him very animal-like. Now, the name of the power-up was Corrupted Dragon, and he uses it with his normal power-up, which already has kind of a dragon motif to it, so supposedly I guess what this power-up really did was corrupt Toma's regular Kamen Rider form and make him this essentially animalistic dragon-like Kamen Rider, and it makes him a lot more powerful. However, again, like I mentioned, it corrupts his mind, so he's not necessarily in control of any of his actions. The fight scene we get here between Toma, Legail, and Storios is amazing. Like, not only is it really well choreographed and, you know, well edited with a lot of fast pace, but it has such a great soundtrack that just really gives this fight just some amazing momentum. If I wasn't worried about the YouTube copyright system, you can bet your ass I'd be playing the soundtrack right now. I'd put it right up there with the swap mode song from Deca Ranger. Toma, of course, defeats the two villains, but as he transforms back to normal, he's seemingly completely out of energy as he passes out. This episode felt like a really short episode in a lot of ways. It also kind of felt like a really old episode of the series because we get some action with the other writers just taking down one of the, you know, usual villains of the show, which is something that we really haven't seen in a while. There was no real monster of the week unless you really count Toma's new form. However, knowing Kamen Rider, this is more than likely going to be a form that Toma eventually overcomes and is probably able to use without having it actually corrupt his mind or something like that. Now, whether or not Toma is still corrupted after he wakes up remains to be seen. We don't really know, you know, the full extent to this, and we also don't really know what the Master of Logos's real intention was. Like, obviously, they're implying that he has been evil this whole time, and he wanted Toma to take it so he could be corrupted, and maybe that's why he also let Storios pass him, because he wanted Storios to lead Toma to this MacGuffin. But there also could be a little bit more to it. It's very possible that the Master of Logos actually does believe in Toma, and his reasoning for wanting Toma to get a hold of this power-up is because he knew Toma would be the kind of person that could overcome it. But that said, we do know that there is corruption within the writers, and obviously the worst kind of corruption you could have is if the very, you know, leader of the Sword of Logos was the one who turned out to be corrupted. So I guess that's something that we're going to have to wait to find out more on. If I had to guess, I would assume that the next episode we're going to be getting a few flashbacks of moments that we missed during this episode, because the whole time we were in the Sword of Logos South Pole base, it really felt like there was a lot of scenes that felt like they were cut out. But I think these scenes were cut out on purpose so that they could be used later on in the second part to let you know all the things that you missed. But that's just what I'm guessing for now. Obviously, we'll have to wait till next week to see if my theory pans out or not. But guys, overall, I thought this was a really entertaining episode, but of course, these are just my A+ opinions. We here at A+ Opinions always want to know what you guys think, so definitely let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and remember that we do actually have a Patreon now if you guys are interested in helping support our channel in any other way. But guys, above all, don't forget to keep it A+.